All right. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So I thought I would start the presentation with this original image, which was the staying in graphic, and I was going to brief everyone on kind of where the show originated and the fact that it was supposed to happen before the pandemic, and the starting place being this idea of staying in as language for um, both like in the colloquial, like I'm staying in, I'm not going out tonight. That was like a real launching pad actually for some of it, but it turned into this larger conversation about border walls and cages and displacement and home at large. And yeah, I love that it ended on this romantic note, weirdly, which I think all just fell into place serendipitously, like how it was supposed to. But yeah, so I kind of just want to go through each of the pieces, and then the artists who are on the call and want to speak up about their work, I would love for you to say whatever you would like to. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So yeah.
Sounds great.
All right, well, we can go to the next slide then. Thank you for facilitating it, Francine. So this is Selva's work. Miss Selva, do you want to speak about this piece for a little bit?
Yeah, sorry, I'm on my phone and I don't know how to see the slides that you're showing. I just see.
We're in front of your piece, you know.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, well, I don't need to see that, I guess. Yeah, so my piece was titled En Casa, at home. And I guess it was a very personal piece, and it came about literally when I was en casa back in Spain after almost 3 years without being able to go, first for visa issues and then for the pandemic. So it all clocked together for me. And I was emptying the house I grew up and like kind of saying goodbye to the house. So with like dichotomies of feeling loved and hurt at the same time, and feeling in a weird space. This piece was born. It was born online, actually, like through sketches, and it came about. And I haven't even seen it in person. So,
which honestly just makes so much sense for the show. Yeah. And I loved watching your son engage with it at the opening. That was the best thing to me.
He was there?
Yeah, he was there. He was just circling the piece, saying "Mama," like literally, like "Mama," like yeah, like he knew all of your energy was like in the piece, so he knew. Yeah, it's amazing. We love this. Is just a beautiful work.
What about the smaller?
Yeah, can we have the smaller the piece on the wall? Yeah, can we? Yeah.
Well, it was all kind of one, and that was more, I guess, like the big rectangle is kind of a wall space, and the other one is kind of like an object in the space. So both together like become the house.
Yeah.
And like anything that could be around. So I thought that was a nice detail to add to give it a little more enclosure.
Yeah.
I love how it has become the background of Heaven Gallery shopping.
Yeah, I loved that little that was such a smart gestural move to just have the little, it made it in casa to me. Like it made the piece. It's perfect. I love it. Yeah, amazing. I guess in terms of like opening it up for questions at the end, we can do that. Or since we're such a small group, we can just like fluidly ask each other questions since we're all here anyway. So yeah, I guess if anyone wants to ask Selva more questions about any of the pieces, like we're here and that's why we're doing this. So, but yeah, we can move on to the next one if not.
Oh, and the thorns are from my house.
Yeah, talk about that. Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot about that. The thorns were shipped from Spain to Chicago years ago, and they are from my actual house. So that makes sense. Anyway, that's all detail, but it was important.
That's not a small detail. That's like very incredibly important. I don't know how I missed saying that. Sorry.
How long did it take you to collect everything?
I don't count hours anymore. Yeah, it's actually not easy because the thorn bushes grow in circles. So to find like the straightest fragments of the bush, it takes a long time, and then split them in half and then weave them together with the wire. So it's a time.
And we love, like, it's just amazing. That process is insane to me.
Selva, you were wearing gloves, I hope, right?
Not really.
No,
I know.
no, they were just cut up.
Hell
My-
Yeah. Yeah.
My hand very.
I'm like, Andrew knows nothing about that, right? You just have sliced up hands. Like, that's really,
Oh no.
yeah, totally. Amazing. Well, we can move on to, this was, you know, a larger shot, but let's see which one do we have next here. Okay, that was the second piece. Amazing. And then Edward, I guess we're to you now.
Great.
Want to talk about Cheeto Chain?
Yeah, so this is from like a series of work I made probably like a year before lockdown.
Yeah.
So I live in New York now. It's part of this longer influence I have from this sculptor, Melvin Edwards. He's like a Black abstract, like found object sort of artist that we have galleries at.
Yeah.
And what I love about his work is it all sort of is about, or at least how it gets displayed is really up to the context of the curator or the space. This idea of things like being fluid or Mobius or sort of being interpreted different ways, you know. But then like the Cheetos itself, like the chain of composition, a lot of like what I do in my practice is essentially trying to like build bridges between like high art and high craft, or like, you know, using sort of skills and techniques to make, I mean, essentially the absurd at a certain point, right? But it's like the idea is like, it's, you know, vernacular, it's like jovial, it's, you know, the idea of a Cheeto being a shelf stable object. Yeah. And so it can be made into these things that can endure for at least a century, you know, with like little finishings, things like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's always weird for me talking about my work, honestly, because
you're amazing at it. Actually,
well, there's a lot of like humor and stuff too, right? You know, it's meant to be kind of like stupid and funny, you know.
Oh, and the color, that was,
Wait, what is the material?
So it's made of Cheetos and epoxy resin and adhesive.
Okay.
Make them perfectly circle.
It's a lot of, I had to buy a lot of bags, and like, I like lay them all out on my table and then like put them all by size and angle. And then I just start kind of matching and going, and it becomes a big, you know, in the middle of this, I have like hundreds of these rings everywhere, and it's a good time. I do wear gloves though, because it'll like, it'll stain your hands after a while. And thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of fun with them.
It's such a great piece. And it punctuated, I feel like, the corner of the space really well. Like
absolutely.
And I loved the sight line of looking at Selva's work and then like, you know, seeing yours like on the other side. Like it felt like a good conversation.
Absolutely, What I really also
I will say too that it's been a Heaven Gallery customer favorite.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. That's so awesome.
Everyone can relate to junk food.
Exactly. Right.
That's what your work is about.
Well,
that's
exactly,
the heart of Edward's whole practice.
Yeah, right. That's a lot of it, right? Is like trying to, you know, like I said, the highbrow, lowbrow, right? It's like, you know, trying to like use materials that like everyone knows. Like, you know, there's, you know, obviously you can like wax about, you know, whatever, in the intellectual or the institutional side of things, but also too just the very notion that art is meant to be viewed by people is like really present in my work. And a lot of what I do is like, you know, craft and event focused, because I just have a big interest in like sort of finding an audience outside of a gallery, essentially, like, you know, making work that can speak to someone who has that institutional knowledge, but also something that can be enjoyed by someone who just is hanging out on a Sunday, you know?
That's it. And that's, I think, what I've enjoyed about this, even just this whole process with Heaven and how you guys have facilitated everything. I love that you have, that it is a fan favorite, that you even have that, because you have customers coming in to shop the vintage store and then be surprised to like engage with art, like by, you know, it's just, I don't know, it's a really beautiful thing. And that's
for sure.
I think all of the artists here understand the importance of that. So So yeah, so thanks to heaven also for being a space that facilitates well. So yeah, amazing. So yeah, your next perk I think is the
coming
next
up.
slide. Yeah.
Oh, hey, yeah, exactly.
I know.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's in the same idea of like
Yeah.
humor and object, artist is industry. Like, I am a maker that instead of like making molds of food, I actually like carve and render these objects sort of thing. And so it's really about this high craft. But then obviously it's like a Dorito flower. So it's meant to be like hilarious and kind of funny. And it's that sort of like that tilting. And I mean, I think also too, like surrealism, right? Kind of plays in a certain way, I think.
Yeah.
It's really just things that I could kind of just feel compelled to make.
Yeah.
A lot of it too is like from just like scrolling on Instagram, right? These like sort of like trash food accounts and sort of like food as like this like material essentially, Yeah. So
Why flower? Like, why did you go that direction with these?
that's a good
How
question.
did you end up there? I didn't actually ask you that.
And I was trying to like, I was figuring out I'd get that question, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, I think because in a lot of ways too, the way I sort of see like this, like whatever intersection of high craft and high art, it has kind of this overlap that's like decorative work, frankly. And I think in decoration, you can put a lot of concept because it can be digested so easily, like the chain. But then if you sit with it longer, you actually can really pick up these nuances and things like that, And so I guess maybe the answer is to make it approachable, I guess, or to make something that's like, relatable or in a way, something like pretty, even though it's like Doritos and kettle chips, sort of,
And more, I don't know, it's interesting because it's an ephemeral like chip, right? And then, but turning it into a flower, which is also an ephemeral thing. I don't know, there's something there for me that
And
just
also
is
talks
really
about
smart.
food decoration.
Yes.
Like, for example, my dad was a chef and he used to make flowers out of tomato peel.
Absolutely.
To present to salmon or something. So, like in food.
Absolutely.
You also have this element.
Yeah, and in a lot of
roses with tomato.
And a lot of what I do with cake decorating has these like buttercream roses and that sort of, and so I think a lot of that rose flower sort of comes from that, to that space, know.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. I know.
It looks so yummy.
So
a little break your teeth.
Yeah, it would break your teeth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Painted stoneware.
Painted stoneware.
Yeah.
Painted what?
With acrylic.
Yeah. Oh, this is painted?
Yeah, it's stoneware. It's white stoneware.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I painted it. Yeah. I just, personally, I do the acrylic paints because it's easier for me to access the paints and use it that way, but also too, it's kind of a reference to like Roman marbles that were white originally, but then painted.
So this is not made with Dorito chips?
No, it's made with like clay and acrylic paint.
Wow, it looks so perfect.
Yeah, good. Hey, yes,
I'm shocked.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah.
I just saw that Jeff Lee joined the call. Hello. Hi, Jeff Lee.
I also love that this work, it kind of mutates from the real Cheetos to the flour junk food, and then is in conversation with Andrew's work.
Yes.
Such a great transition. I just wanted to say that was one of the things that I saw, and I just like fell in love with how the exhibition is talking to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thorns then too, obviously, with the flowers and the roses, And,
Yeah, that was the most exciting thing. I'm glad you acknowledged that. That was like, I love when I am in studios with like, you don't know Andrew, and you in Selva, you didn't know Andrew before this exhibition. That's the beauty. That's like why, to look around and see like where we're drawing parallels, like these, I don't know, you're working in very parallel ways and it comes out so differently. And that's why we do this, right? I love it.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Well, Andrew, can we talk about your work next? I don't know if you're the next slide or not. We'll come back to it, Yvette. Let's look at Andrew's stuff since we're there. So that was a wide shot of. Sorry. No, it's my bad. Yeah, perfect.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. So this obviously shows the installation. Andrew, will you specifically talk a little bit to like how you decided to install? You've been playing around with these flower arrangements for so long. It feels like a while of you doing this, and I love how it ended up, but maybe just how we got there.
Well, I like my work is always in the pursuit of luxury. So, and I work from home in my own home studio. And I end up kind of almost merchandising the work throughout my own apartment as the work is made. And so these pedestals and coffee tables are all elements that I use in my own home, and kind of just meld together into these vignettes of objects and things that are kind of elevating high and low, what we deem covetable and valuable to our lives. It also speaks to consumption of my own drinking habits, whether it be through water or alcohol. I love to have a drink. So collecting and acknowledging that consumption is a big part of the work. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Will you talk about the happy accident of Toller's, like the beautiful round sweater piece, and will you talk about the embellished, the jeweled underwear? I love that. I don't know. I think we have that on a slide in a little bit. Sorry, Francine, that I'm making you click through it.
So usually I like to develop long-term relationships with clothing and items, and so the hoodie in particular was a very happy accident of drying a hoodie with a fitted sheet, and it was birthed from the dryer in that form, and I just couldn't help but not use it. And it's just kind of bizarre. I love clothing, so it just seemed to fit, and it spoke really well with the pink orchid. So I like to combine those. Yeah.
Love it. I love that you have that kind of thing, and then you have which I don't think that we have the other image of it. You can see it kind of in this image. You can see the Prada wallet, the embellished one. There's certain things that you have that come out like surprise like that, and then you have these other pieces that are so like years and years of labor almost, like, and the wear of the objects, it's like that's part of it, and then you're building on it constantly, right, with this hand embellishment. It's just fascinating.
Yes, it's all about collection building and like living in your own fantasy world where you develop a sense of identity through the objects that you collect in your life. Yeah.
And as time passes, right? Like there's such an element of time with all of this. I mean, yeah, it's kind of these are insane. Seeing these in your studio were like all completely, I mean, they were crowding your life for a while. Like, in a gallery space now, it was just it was like so rewarding and wonderful. Yeah, amazing. Anyone have questions for Andrew? Just, I'll keep it moving if not, but you know.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the presentation, how you can walk through it. I feel like that made it so much stronger for me, as opposed to it just being on its own, but also the abundance. Like I was saying earlier, the romance of the abundance of flowers and celebrating really resonated with me, and I absolutely love it. So thank you for that. And then the vitrines also kind of these lucite, almost invisible presentation that they're on also really made it perfect for me. Usually I'm kind of like on the side of not liking so many objects in a room, but I felt like this exhibit carried so much so well.
Yeah, I honestly was surprised about how many it ended up being at the end, but it's just kind of called for it. I think that it's, abundance is the name of the game.
Yeah,
with the flowers. Yeah.
So good. Love it. Amazing.
Yeah, they're stunning. Honestly.
They are. They're stunning, and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. For sure. We can move on to the next piece if we would like. That was fun. I did want to touch on that, how you ended just and how you let us put something on the piano. That was just a fun moment. That was good.
Amazing.
And the window is beautiful.
Like Art Deco.
Yeah, that's Adria Soto, one of her works, right? Isn't it? Yeah. I'm like, we should probably credit her in the whenever we post this image as well.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just go back. Let's see. Just let me
Sorry, I know we did it a little out of order.
know it all.
Yeah, let's Jeff Lee. Can we talk about your painting, The Swan, which became the spearhead image of how we promoted the show because it's so iconic. Jeff Lee, will you give us, you know, your beautiful words about this piece? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Oh, and I want to say one thing before, can I just introduce, so Jeff Lee was not part of the original proposal for the exhibition. Jeff Lee and I developed friendship and business partnership during the course of the pandemic. And this painting was a part of the very first studio visit that we had together. And all of her work is about, not all of it, a lot of her work made sense for this show, and her practice in general just did. So she was kind of the additional artist that we added, which just, it felt right. And it felt like it fell into place. And yeah, please talk about the Swan, because this is just like one of the most beautiful paintings.
So this painting developed in 2019, and in 2018 something very major happened in my life, which is that my stepdad moved to the States with me. That was something that I wasn't expecting ever to happen, to have family again where I was. I didn't expect to go back to Venezuela because after so many years, I wasn't sure where I belonged, but it seemed that I belonged here because Venezuela right now is just impossible to live and thrive there as an artist. So with my family moving here, the everyday conversations were full of a lot of nostalgia. She was happy to be here, but she of course missed Venezuela, and she missed a Venezuela that she remembers. And through the lens of memory, a lot of things seem to be more grandiose, more beautiful than probably they were. And perhaps some of them were that beautiful, but I could tell by the conversations that she will have with me and with her husband that she was embellishing a past because she missed that place, her home, so much. So listening to this, I am actually here. We live here. They still live with me. We live together in an 800 square foot apartment. So conversations are, usually I can hear what they are talking all the time. And that kind of was always in my mind, this nostalgia that she was feeling. And that started fueling a body of work that dealt with remembering and with mystifying, magnifying things that I remembered. So this is a swan. My grandma used to have these porcelain pieces in her home, my great grandma. And that was a house that everybody loved visiting, but it was not a fancy home. And I remember that she will care a lot about these porcelain things that will decorate her home. And whenever I will go and stay there for a few days, she will have me clean all the porcelains and clean around the porcelains and put the doily back in the center and all of that. And so I found a swan like this in a thrift store. And then I tried to get an image as close to the swan that I had seen in my great grandma's home. And I decided to paint it larger to basically give it the dignity that the original object used to give to my great grandma's house. And it's not that the dignity of the house is held by the objects within, but that's how she felt about her adornments. And I thought that that was beautiful. Also, back in 2019, I was only painting objects. I wasn't able yet to paint the people. It seemed to me that I had to first build a home where people could suddenly emerge, and perhaps more personal narratives could be expressed through painting. So this is the first painting of a large body of work where I was first painting the clothes. They were all titled Fragments of an Imaginary Home. The clothes, the brooms, the swan. I painted a few parrots because she had a parrot named Roberto. many years. Roberto just died. Great grandma died. Parrots can live like 80 years. Yeah. And you probably have seen a lot of my paintings have a parrot in it, because for me it was so whimsical, that animal that could speak. And you know, he will call my mom. He loved women. Like, he would just get so crazy with women. And so there is a lot of, perhaps I am like my mother, falling into that nostalgia and remembering the past as more mystical, more magical, more beautiful than perhaps it was. And I think that all the body of work that I've done since 2018 till now deals a lot with that, with family ancestry, with memory. And then little by little, it has started to enter into the more present. But it started there, building the home, basically. And then, yeah, that's I think that's it.
Yeah, so beautiful.
So beautiful.
I love,
Me too.
yeah, I love her always, just a rich story behind every single painting. Amazing. Thanks so much, Jeff Lee. Thanks for joining this, last minute too. The show is like, are you sure we can do it? So it worked out perfectly. And it was funny because I was laughing with Alma and France. No, you weren't there actually, but I was like, the vintage store, the gift shop outside. It was like we had curated a gift shop for the show. She had like 3 beautiful swans, like that were the vintage swans that you like had, painted after.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
It was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And we got more.
We love it. Swans for sale. We love it. We love it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll mention Chelsea's piece right now, since we're looking at this one. The doily, first of all, the doily on that painting is insane. We have to acknowledge it, right? So beautiful. Anyway, so Chelsea was also this was her original piece. It was The Blinds That Always Break, where it was the original title, and there was a title change, and I feel awful right now. Do you guys have it on hand? Hold on, I'm pulling up the checklist.
Like
I prefer curtains. It was the title, but is the new title. So she was creating blinds from curtains, and she's also done curtains from blinds, and she's she's a textile artist that's super interested in barriers. Like that's all she's looking at right now, is like windows and doorways and kind of veils and like what we can see through. So I loved this work in that small little window space, and for her to pull in the vintage. She was going to actually use a different piece to cover that, and she ended up using this vintage doily and like hand stitched parts of it, and she's fantastic. So Chelsea, we'll send her the video, and that's
she brought
Chelsea.
the bed?
No, that was a bench that was in the space already, because the stipulation with this room basically was you need it to function as it was the video room. So the other side of it is where your video piece is hanging.
Oh.
Bianca is in New York for, if you didn't know, she didn't see the show. So we're all in New York together. I didn't know if I made that clear, but the stipulation with the space was that little bench had to stay in the space. And I was super okay with all of these little moments, because it was like, that is the building of a home. Like that is how you are always working through.
It looks like a bed.
Yeah, it does look like that.
I thought it was a bed.
Right. Right.
Me too.
Well, that was what she turned it into. I mean, honestly, it turned out so beautifully. Yeah. Well, people were like sitting, it's so comfortable. People were absolutely just chilling, watching the video, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then it gave just a little bit of cover so that, you know, it was a little darker in the room for the video piece. So I didn't put a still up for the video piece, but I can transition. You want to talk about, let's go to you now.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the video piece for a second?
Yeah, of course.
I'm assuming, it's you.
Hi,
Talk about it.
everybody.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you so much to Heaven Gallery, Taylor, and all the artists. I love the show, and I see so many connections formally, like, for example, the Swan and that work, you know, like Andrew and Edward and Selva, everyone. And I'm so excited because I work with food also.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm going to talk about Cotton Candy, which is a video performance that merges video art. It's an experimental film, so it's shot with cinematic standard. So it looks very cinematic, and it's a short video of 3 minutes that shows a woman in a Rococo furniture store that looks like a purgatory. I found this location in Ridgewood, New York, and when I saw it, I fell in love with it. And I was like, and I'm French, and so I read a lot. You know, in French high school, you read a lot of hardcore French poetry and literature.
Yeah.
That was my major. So I had this poetry book in my head called The Purgatory, and I looked at it. I was like, oh my God, I have to place a character in that space, and that character needs to expiate her sins or whatever. You know what I mean? So do like a repetitive gesture. So I worked a lot in choreography too. I'm obviously not a dancer, but I like to use gesture and repetitive gesture and to extend them, to push them to their extent and see how it ends. So I don't give any instruction to actors, and actually I don't work with actors. I work mostly with friends. So the woman in the video is my friend Ionella, and so I just told her the only instruction is that you have to eat all the cotton candies on your head. And so there was like 7 of them, and so she ate them all while we're filming. And at some point, she was just so sugar high that she just broke and she couldn't keep still anymore, and she started laughing. And I thought it was the best part of the performance, so I kept that part, and it's kind of like the climax of the video before she's completely bald.
Yeah.
So the music of the video was recorded through my window. So basically I shot the video first, and then I was like, oh my God, what am I going to use for the sound? I don't know. And then one day from my window, so the space that I shot at is a furniture store, like Chinese furniture store, Rococo, Louis XIV style, which I love because, you know, there's so much Rococo furniture stuff in France, you know, like Louis XIV stuff. And so under that space, there was an illegal club, and they were doing parties every Saturday, and they had a hookup with the police not to be raided or something. And so one night I saw the orchestra, they were just like a procession walking down the streets, and they were like 10 musicians making music. And so I jumped at my window with the recorder and I recorded the sound. And I was like, okay, obviously the 2 spaces are juxtaposed, they cohabit together. So I used that soundtrack, and I thought it was great because the character's so isolated and alone. And then you have this party music somewhere in the background, you know? And so at the time I just arrived to New York, I shot it in 2011, and I arrived in 2010. And I was just like, I had a full-time job. I was working as a waitress. It was a nightmare, like doubles on doubles. I was just completely sucked up in the new city. You know what I mean? When you arrive to New York, the city's so aggressive, you have to survive. And I was drinking a lot. I became a total alcoholic, and then I stopped. But I had a moment of like substance abuse and stuff like that. There was a lot of like substance history in my family and incarceration history at the same time. So I was like, okay, this was kind of like the release of all of that. And for me, art is really a ritual to kind of like subvert reality or reverse reality. There's a reversal of situation. So that's what I came with this project. That's where it started from. And so that's the story about cotton candy. Do you have any question?
So good.
You know,
I can't wait to see.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going today. Hopefully, is the gallery open today? By the way, I just got back from Venezuela and I have not been able to see the show in person. But this piece, it sounds so wonderful. I cannot wait to see it.
Definitely, it is so wonderful. You will.
You can also go on my website.
That's true.
Oh, great, great.
Website.
Yes, we are here and we're open. I want to say one thing too about the closet. So, that little closet room, we used to call it the Mardi Gras closet, because in Wicker Park at night, if we had an artist stay here, if they needed a little room, they would stay in that little room, and it was so loud from the partying that it was like dubbed the Mardi Gras closet.
I love it.
And so to have that music that's so Mardi Gras, like New Orleans, is just like, oh, okay.
That's cool.
I love that.
You guys didn't put headphones?
No.
Oh,
No, it's just in there. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my
Love it,
God.
you know, like with the touching. Yeah. No, we were like,
Awesome.
let's have it blasting.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It sounds amazing, but I love that. I didn't know that.
yeah, so it's also very like decadent, like what you're talking about. I feel that, but like the music to me just like reminds me of New Orleans. So thank you for that.
yeah.
So great.
And I'll talk briefly about the second piece,
Yeah,
which
talk
is
about
a
Yaya.
painting.
Yes.
So first of all, thank you so much for showing a painting, Taylor, because I've only started repainting recently after like 15 years of not painting.
That's
awesome.
the image. Sorry,
That's
you guys.
the- yeah,
Yeah, on that
the
side.
right.
Yeah.
So I started repainting while I was doing a residency in New York at Mass Foundation, a portrait of my mom. And then I was like, oh, I'll do a portrait of my grandma too. And I had this photo that I found, like, that I had with me, but I looked at it recently and I was like, holy shit. I took that photo of my grandma when I was 12 years old, and it was literally the only time I ever saw her in my entire life wearing sunglasses.
Mm.
So about my grandma, my mom and my grandma are both from North Africa, from Algeria, and they're both survivors of the Algerian War of Independence. So they were on the Algerian side, colonized by the French military that they had to serve. And they moved to France when my mom was 12, and they had to adapt. They're from a tribe called the Kabyle people, Berber people, which is like usually nomadic people from the desert, but they have a sub-tribe that live in the mountain of Morocco, Tunisia, and Algeria, and they're sedentary, and so they just grow their own vegetable. The dream of every Brooklyn hipster.
Yeah, right.
Usually they're Muslim or atheic, but because of French colonization, a lot of them are Christian. Obviously, my grandma's wearing a veil; she was Muslim, and so so she never adapted to modernity. When she moved to France, she never spoke French, and she just lived in Paris in a little studio as if she was wearing in the mountain. She never used electricity. She woke up with the sun.
Amazing.
Instead of using the kitchen stove, she had, you know, when you go camping, you have the gas battle that's super dangerous.
Yeah.
She had that in the middle of her room, like a danger for the entire building. So that's just, she just kept on living as if she was living over there. And she just never adapted to modernity and the language and all stuff. And so when she burst into my room that day and she took the sunglasses and she put them on, I had this disposable camera. I just shot a picture of it. I was a kid that loved theater and fashion. I had so many costumes from the flea market, you know, these 50 cents dresses, the flea market in France that all the North African women and go to, and the African women. And so I knew that secretly she stole some of my dresses that were sexy. You know, the sexy
Yes,
gown
yes.
that you put under the dress.
Yes.
I was like, where is my golden gown? It disappeared. And one day I saw it on her whole skirt. I was like, So anyways, well, I took that photo and I was like, oh my God, I have to paint a photo of it, a picture of it, because it's too funny. And it was a happy moment. And it also, you know, with the sunglasses, there's a sense of, it's kind of like an anonymous, and it talks about that blind spot in art history about Algerian women during the Algerian War of Independence, which is really something that's not really talked about, especially in the US, because most of the people don't know where Algeria is. They think it's Italy or something like that. So that's what it talks about. And I'm so thankful because I don't do a lot of painting. So thank you.
Yes. No, it had to be, to me, it was like, just the whole family narrative and the way that Jeff Lee, those two paintings worked so well for me. And this is a good transition to talk about Yvette's paintings. It's also, I mean, it like the foundation is about family and place, right? And home. And I just thought too, we can look at, or wait, were you done or no? Okay. Yvette's work here, there's two works. There's obviously so this is Two Lovers, and then this one, they're both amazing paintings, but anyone who hasn't seen the show, go see it in person, because these paintings, I think all the painting work actually needs to be seen in person. But anyway, I love these paintings for a lot of reasons, but I think just of course the connection to Rococo, the baking, like she uses tools like for piping cakes to make, it's very, very that. But her parents, one of her parents was a baker when they first immigrated to the US. That was like their first job, and that's how she grew up, was with these cakes and baking. And so that's how she developed her whole painting language, was because of that. So I loved these pieces in conversation with your film specifically, right? Like, right, just this consumption, but I loved them with actually all of your works. And like, there's so much food work here, but obviously it's more a show about these were selected based on more the connections with the parents and how you ended up where you are and why you make with the means that you have. It's just, that's kind of what I have to say about Yvette's paintings. Does anyone else have anything to add about these works? They're so good. I know, Alma, you've been familiar with her work for a long time as well, and she showed at Heaven before, I believe. And you've worked with, you guys are we're like cousin artists.
Yeah, we always say we're cousins just because I do a lot of work with like buttercream and everything, and she's also, at least when I met her, because I was in Pilsen at the time, she was in Pilsen, so it was like that sort of it's like your crew Chicago kind of thing. Crew, exactly. You know, I love their work. I think the way they treat the canvas with the acrylic is really interesting, because I come at buttercream from like this professional side where it's like ornamenting round things like cakes. And what I always loved about their work is it's really having this like this in between like painting and like gestural work, but also then that sort of like finish or that sort of like ornamentation.
Right.
It's all, it's all just, the cultural references too are really cool. That's why I love they always have food in their work.
But also it personally reminds me of, the steel that's in front of the windows. Like
what?
Like, when you have a window that's covered with steel.
Yes.
Like,
that's what that was. That was exactly the grid that she was using in that.
So beautiful.
Right. Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Amazing.
I like the connection of the junk food. So the fries.
Like
disposable flip-flops, fries, next to the Cheetos. I thought that was a really nice pairing. I think those works really do speak to one another.
Yeah.
And I think the gate, we're in this, we have so many veils throughout this show between
for sure.
Selva, your Cheeto piece, the way that it was placed, Chelsea's window, like there's just so many moments where you're faced with like, what am I seeing through this? And from the other side, how would it look? This is, God, her paintings are incredible.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
She did the Barrio too, actually.
She what?
She was at a show at the Barrio.
Yes. Amazing. Did we get through everything? Did we just do that? I'm like, what time is it? We did.
Great.
We did do that. Amazing. Well, I feel like
10 more minutes.
Yeah, we have 10 minutes. Do we have questions for each other? I love that it was just a small group of the artists. It makes it really fun. Yeah.
Hey, you guys are making me hungry. Goodness.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I had a question for Selva. I was kind of running around a little bit getting the door, so I kind of missed it when she was speaking. But first of all, I really loved the placement of the wall, of the thorn wall. And I also really appreciate like the danger in that. Really funny moment from the opening. I think you were present, Taylor, was when her little son was running around it. We were like, no.
Yes, totally.
He's used to dangerous things, don't worry.
So maybe we can talk about like, is there like a danger element? So I also thought about like the little wire as like miniature barbed wire and kind of the thorns being natural barbed wire. One side being like flat and then the other side being the dangerous side. Can you talk to us a little bit about, like, was that the intention to make there like this danger?
I mean, well, when I was working on this piece from Spain, so first I asked Taylor for the map of the space, and it was very important for me that was placed with enough space for a wheelchair on each side. I know it's a little bit more at the moment because of the shape of the space, but the title being en casa, like a home, was very important for me, to knowing that these thorns actually come from my house. We were talking in the beginning how I ship them from my house. And yeah, it is about these dichotomies of how a child, especially now you're talking about my child too, which I think that, you know, children are the most vulnerable of this world, and you never know what happens in a house. And if these houses can have this double side protection, and then sometimes can inside have this dangerous part as well. So that's why the thorns were cut in half, to show these two sides of the story and being able to see through as well. Like a child will do when they are looking through a little hole on the door to see what's happening inside. So yeah, I was telling them in the beginning that I was saying goodbye to the house where I grew up in Spain this summer, and it definitely has a lot of these dark sides for me, and a lot of memories that I wanna to work with on this piece. And actually, my mother's name is Aranzazu, which in Basque language means in between thorns. And that was the original intent on why I chose those thorns, because we literally lived in between thorns, and these are the literal thorns that we lived around and then were shipped here.
Wow.
That's cool. Yeah.
And I also love that it's like a filter to the exhibit.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was telling Taylor that it was important for me to like create this, like, it was a little bit aggressive, but that was the intention, to have like that being the beginning, and knowing that how also Heaven Gallery operates with the store and the other shows, I wanted to really like start the mood, because I knew what was the other works too, and they can be, like we were talking in the beginning, very sentimental, very, but adding this, like using filter in the beginning of like, hey, yes, this is like welcoming and sentimental, but also like there is this darkness beyond what you're seeing. Or
So poetic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
Incredible. I absolutely love it.
Thank you. I was very happy to see, happy and sad to see my son, you know, because I had to be away for like a month, and it was very difficult because he's so little. And they told him that they were going to see my sculpture at Heaven Gallery, and he thought they were going to see me. He was going to see me. So that was very sad, you know, and I see him like on the thorns, and I know he knows that that's are my thorns, because he comes to my studio all the time, and he knows like what materials I use, you know. So yeah, that was something.
Love it.
I can't wait to come in person. Yeah.
Amazing.
I'll come with him, so he'll show me around.
Yeah, perfect. That's all you need. I love that.
Yeah. And I'm excited because I know, Bianca, you are curating another show at Heaven Gallery. Right?
Yes. Thank you so much for selecting our exhibition. We're so excited. Selva's going to be in the show, and 9 other artists.
9?
And yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
Like I think the total of artists is 9 artists.
9 artists.
So yeah, so I told everyone is.
When is this show? Do you know?
So thank you so much, guys. I will be there in September 2022.
September 2022. Okay.
Oh,
So
funny.
a year. That's good. You have time.
I'm
Love it. Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll be open all weekend. Whoever wants to come, invite your friends.
Thank you.
We'll be here 1 to 6 today, tomorrow 1 to 5.
Okay.
So many people have been absolutely floored by this show. They're just like, that room, oh my God.
artist.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's so beautiful. Like
Yeah.
it makes me so happy. Like you guys, you all did this, but it's really just fun. It worked out beautifully. Like
Absolutely.
way better than I could have imagined. And it was because of the artist. So obviously, this is why we do
And the
this.
curation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the hands that did all of the work. We can't thank you guys enough.
Truly. Yeah, absolutely.
And the artists that stayed extra to help. Andrew, thank you so much. You know how much you spent so much time.
Of course, happy to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew, for stretching my painting.
Yes. Yes. Like we just because all of you were trying. You know, this was a show of everyone has homes all over the place. So so yeah, it worked out beautifully. But.
And thank you, Selva, for sending your husband to help stretch the hang as well.
Yes. Yeah.
He's not big good at that stuff, but
Thank you all so much. We're so excited to welcome people into the space today.
Amazing.
right. Thank you.
Wonderful rest of your day. Hope to all see you next week.
All right.
you.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.